Jeff, a resident of Dayton, Ohio, was driving with his 3-year-old son, Miles, in the back seat when they passed by a modest cemetery decorated with only flowers and small plaques. "It basically looks like a giant garden," Jeff explains on the podcast Monsters Among Us. According to Jeff, as they drove by, his toddler, who'd been happily singing, abruptly stopped, pointed to the cemetery and exclaimed, "Look at all those people." Jeff turned to look but didn't see a soul. Confused, he asked Miles what he was talking about. "All those people over there," his son replied. "There sure are a lot of grandmas." As Jeff tells it, chills ran down his spine as he asked his son what the people were doing. "They're all standing there looking down at the grass," Miles said. Completely unsettled by the conversation, Jeff sped up and drove home. Later that same day, he says his young son was watching TV when he turned to Jeff and said, "You know, they weren't alive." Thinking Miles was referring to the cartoon, Jeff asked what he meant. "Those people we saw, they were all paused," his son replied. "I don't know if my kid has the sixth sense," Jeff says, "or if he just has a wild imagination." The Stanley Hotel in Estes Park, Colorado, has been around for more than 100 years and was built as a posh getaway for the wealthy seeking solitude in the mountains. As the years passed, however, occupancy declined, and by the 1970s, the Grand Hotel had fallen into disrepair. It was around that time that famed author Stephen King spent the night there and was inspired to write the book The Shining. The book and blockbuster film helped return the Stanley to its former glory. Now, guests come in droves to see the hotel that inspired one of the scariest horror movies of all time. Given its history, it should come as no surprise that many visitors report strange happenings. Aware of the ghostly rumors, Texas resident Henry Yao booked a last-minute getaway in April of 2016 to check it out. After arriving, Yao had dinner, then wandered around the Stanley to take photos. Stopping at the staircase, he waited for people to clear the area, then took a picture, thinking nothing of it. Later that night, however, Yao fell seriously ill. "I felt really sick. I had the shivers. I was like, something's really wrong," he tells Today.com. His companion suggested he go to the emergency room, but Yao refused. On the trip home, Yao began swiping through the photos he'd taken when he discovered what he said was a really strange image of someone standing on the stairs. Except no one had been there. The next day, he posted the photo on Instagram, half joking that he'd captured a ghost. And the world took notice. Almost overnight, Yao found himself in the limelight with his ghost picture warranting attention from global media outlets and paranormal experts who wanted to examine the photo. Some experts say that there's 2 ghosts, and other people said that the reason I got sick is because the ghost was trying to materialize, taking energy out of me, he said. "There's so many theories about this." And what does Yao think? "I have no idea," he says with a laugh. If there's no such thing as ghosts, then explain the supernatural incidents at San Diego's Whaley House, a destination dubbed America's most haunted house. "I have definitely been present when people claim they hear things, smell things, and in some cases even see apparitions," says Victor Santana, operations manager at the Whaley House and Museum. Widely known for its unexplained occurrences, the historical house was built in 1856 by Thomas Whaley, a former New Yorker who came west during the gold rush. It's quite possible Whaley got a sweet deal on the land, given it was once home to the San Diego Gallows, a place where countless criminals were executed. Though he doesn't know exactly how many people died at the site, Santana says one prisoner stands out. Yankee Jim Robinson was executed on site after he stole a boat, says the Whaley House manager. Legend says that Thomas Whaley was actually a witness to that execution. Whether it's true or not, Santana says that Whaley reported haunted happenings in his home in the years that followed, citing heavy footsteps going up and down the stairs while he worked in his office. He would also sometimes hear a man grunting, if you will, and he would attribute that to Yankee Jim Robinson, he says. After dying of natural causes, Whaley is said to have become a ghost himself at the house, with some visitors claiming to smell the cigars he enjoyed smoking. "Or you might even see him at the top of the staircase looking down on you," says Santana. Other mysterious occurrences at the Whaley House include the unexplained scent of lavender in the air, attributed to Whaley's wife's perfume, as well as possible ghosts of the Whaley family's pets. You might feel something brushing up against your leg, even licking your leg in some cases. And they believe that's the family dog, says Santana. Has Santana ever actually seen an apparition there? I have never seen a ghost, he confirms. However, he has had a couple of odd experiences, including seeing a doll that seemingly appeared to move on its own once, and occasionally he's heard a woman's voice crying late night at night. Santana was also present during a paranormal investigation at the site in which an EVP electronic voice recorder used by investigators picked up something utterly spine-chilling. You set up a recorder and you ask questions. Like, is anybody in the room with us? What is your name? So one of the questions was, are you happy that we are here with you tonight? Explained Santana. And when you play back the recording, you hear somebody say, no. On August 4, 1892, Andrew and his wife, Abby Borden, were found brutally murdered in their Fall River, Massachusetts home. Though murder wasn't uncommon in the late 1800s, the fact that they were bludgeoned to death with an axe, and the main suspect was their 32-year-old daughter, Lizzie Borden, certainly was. The crime and trial that followed made headlines around the world. Lizzie was ultimately acquitted of murder, but she remains forever linked to the heinous killings, as does the home where the crime was committed. Now a bed and breakfast and museum, the Borden home attracts history buffs and thrill seekers who come to see for themselves if rumors that the house is haunted are indeed true. When I started working here, it was more of the history. I really didn't care about the paranormal. Suzanne St. John, a realtor and tour guide at the Lizzie Borden House, tells Today.com. However, that all changed after St. John says she experienced a few unusual happenings of her own. Guests tell us they hear laughing and playing in the middle of the night, things get moved around, she says. And St. John has experienced a few unusual things herself, saying that once she discovered toys scattered across a room that no one had been in. St. John also talks of a picture that fell over and slid 2 feet across the floor without any plausible explanation, as well as a closet door that once opened on its own volition. On the eve of the anniversary of Andrew and Abby's murder, St. John says that she and 2 other tour guides at the house felt a sudden sharp, piercing pain in their left eyes, the same exact location of Andrew Borden's fatal injuries. Perhaps the most unsettling, however, is the story St. John tells of a tour guide at the Lizzie Borden house who asked her group to silence their cell phones before beginning the tour. Moments later, a guest's cell phone rang. She looked up and said, "It's my mum." The tour guide asked if she wanted to leave and take the call, to which the woman replied, "She died 2 years ago." Though Salem, Massachusetts is best known for its infamous witch trials, there have been plenty of other chilling stories throughout its 400-year history. One of them is the tale of Captain Joseph White, a wealthy merchant who was found bludgeoned to death in his bed. It was a crime motivated by money, according to Giovanni Alabiso, owner and tour guide at Salem Historical Tours, who says the 82-year-old merchant was allegedly targeted by greedy brothers hoping to get their hands on his will. Brothers Joseph and Francis Knapp enlisted the help of Richard Crowninshield to help get the job done. Late in the evening, when Captain White is asleep, Dick Crowninshield comes in. He goes upstairs to the second floor and takes a club and bashes the captain over the head and crushes his skull, Alabiso tells Today.com. The murder resulted in a scandalous trial and is said to be the inspiration for Edgar Allan Poe's The Telltale Heart, as well as the game Clue. Whether it's the brutal nature of the crime or revenge for the attempt to steal his money, the spirit of Captain Joseph White is said to still wander the halls of his former home. People believe Captain White is roaming around that house, protecting whatever treasure he reportedly has, Alabiso said. Tourists take photos of the house, and despite being empty, many pictures reveal shadowy figures, both male and female, in the windows and on the landing of the Gardner Pingree house. Who are they? No one knows. It's definitely, absolutely active, Alabiso says. When Marty was a child back in the 90s, she tells Monsters Among Us that she was a fan of ventriloquist Edgar Bergen and his dummy sidekick, Charlie McCarthy. She says that when her father came across a ventriloquist doll as he wandered through a small magic shop located outside of Santa Rosa, California, he decided to buy it for her birthday. While ringing up the sale, Marty says the cashier gave her father weird vibes and said to him, "You know when you put your hand inside the doll, he's going to come alive." Laughing off the comment, he brought the dummy home to his daughter. According to Marty, she was over the moon when dad gave her the doll, saying, "I was so happy when I got that doll, I was obsessed." But before long, strange things began happening. Though impossible because the doll's head was made of hard plastic, she says its expression would change, including his smile. Worried something would happen to her precious dummy, Marty's family shut it away in a cupboard most nights. One night, she and her family were awakened by the pitter-patter of steps in their living room. Thinking it was the dog or another family member, they went to look. No one was there, except for the doll who was sitting on the couch. "We remember specifically we always put it away because I loved that doll so much that I took care of it," Marty says on the podcast. Other strange occurrences began happening. While Marty and her dad were away, her uncle was alone in the house. The uncle says he heard Marty's father calling his name from the living room, even though he wasn't home. When he went to look, he found the doll once again sitting on the couch, and no one else. "All of our family was pretty much scared of the doll," Marty says. "People would start hearing their names being called, and we would hear walking at night. So we just decided we needed to get rid of it." Being Mexican and religious, Marty says her parents wanted to burn the doll in case it was demonic. They put it on the grill, and according to Marty, it wouldn't burn. This doll would not go up in flames at all, whatsoever. They tried cutting it up with a knife, but were unsuccessful. Finally, they threw it in the trash can. After the garbage was collected, Marty's dad went to retrieve the bin. In it, the doll. To rid themselves of the dummy, they dug a hole in the backyard, then filled it with cement. Marty and family have long since moved away, but she says they still think about the doll and the possibility that eventually it finds one of us.